There's so much hate for the Phillips CD-i, it makes me wonder if it deserves all the hate. The answer is yes, it absolutely does. Everything about this console is pretty much a mess, from the control scheme to the price point to the god-awful representations of famous Nintendo franchises. But there has to be something good about the CD-i, right? The console can't just consist of terrible games, right? I hope so, or else this list is a throwaway. I'm Dan from FlatZone, and this is the top 5 best Phillips CD-i games. And yes, it's only 5 this time around. Coming up with 5 alone took enough time. If we tried 10 games, this video would never come out. Good games and the CD-i go together like marriage and World War III, so coming up with this list is quite a burden. I had to take 1 or 2 liberties here and there, and Mad Dog 2: The Lost Gold just happens to be one of those liberties. This game was originally an on-rail arcade game featuring live-action cutscenes until it was ported to consoles 2 years later. Yeah, you'll notice a trend where a lot of the games on this list are just ports or multi-platform games. Anyway, it was ported to the only systems that could actually handle the intense gameplay. Obviously it was ported to the CD-i, but that's not all. It was also ported to other famous systems, like the 3DO, and the Sega CD. Everyone remembers and loves those consoles, right? Anyway, make sure you get your crackers out of the pantry because this game is pure cheese. The acting is so amazingly terrible that it's, well, amazing. The game goes from scene to scene with little to no substance, and the game over screens are just unintentionally hilarious. Other than that, the game is just mediocre at best, and it plays like it should on the CD-i. However, if you're just itching to get some Mad Dog McCree on your system, I'd recommend that you go for Mad Dog McCree Gunslinger Pack for the Wii. Not only because I'm assuming you don't have a spare CD-i in your house, but also because it includes the first and third games in the series as well as Mad Dog 2, and the motion controls are pretty average. Wow, the list just started, and I'm already proving myself wrong. This is going so well. Oh look, another port. And wouldn't you know it, it's another arcade port. Then again, it's pretty hard to screw up Dragon's Lair. I mean, you're pressing one of 4 or 5 buttons relating to a direction, and even the CD-i's worst controller has directional buttons. And wouldn't you know it, it actually plays really smoothly. One might even go as far to say that it's the closest to the original in terms of quality. I might be inclined to agree. It plays smoothly, the visuals look crisp, and it sounds excellent. That's one thing that the CD-i did have going for it, the audio. Even in terrible games like the Mario and Zelda games, the audio was never a problem. Not the voice acting, no, God no, that was awful. But the sound leveling and music was actually pretty stellar. Makes sense since the CD-i was marketed as a better CD player first and a cheaper PC second. That's ironic given the fact that the CD-i is now the most expensive console of all time. Wait, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, Dragon's Lair. It definitely gets the job done, especially compared to all other versions of the game at the time, but there have been more recent releases of the game that are far better than the Phillips CD-i version. Seriously, another port? When the best games on the system are just ports, you know that the game in question is Lemmings, just to clear things up, just so we can get that out of the way. You know the system is a garbage fire. Even if the ports are good, chances are that either the games were ported to another system at the time, or they'll be ported and optimized for a console in the future, thus rendering the port on the current console absolutely useless. At least it wasn't an arcade port this time. I'm not going to go too far into detail as to why this game makes the list. It's Lemmings. If you played one version, you basically played every version. Besides that stupid animated intro when you boot up the game, it plays and looks fine, and like Dragon's Lair, it sounds pretty good too. I would have recommended this version at the time, but again, it's been ported to more recent consoles and optimized way better. Then again, if you're one of the few people who do own a CD-i and have Lemmings in your game library, then at the very least you've got something to do with it instead of using it to collect dust. Finally, an original game. And it's actually good? You know, I'm as shocked as you are with this, but after checking out The Apprentice, I can vouch for it. In this game, you play as Marvin, an apprentice for a powerful wizard. You are seen as basically a slave, and nobody shows you any respect. The game consists of you doing some chores for your master over the course of a week. The gameplay is your basic 2D platformer, however with a bit more focus on vertical-paced platforming instead of horizontal. Like the other games on this list, the game sounds almost amazing. There are some catchy tunes here and there, and it's so crisp and clean. The animation is so smooth and fluid as well. You can feel the weight of the characters and the environment just by moving and jumping. But looks and sounds are rendered useless compared to how it plays, and my verdict there is, it plays pretty well. There are a few weird choices when it comes to button options here and there, and sometimes the controls act kind of wonky under certain circumstances, but it's not that distracting. It only happens in a few choice places. All in all, the game is pretty fun, and to the best of my knowledge, is only available on the CD-i. See, if developers put this much effort into CD-i games, then maybe it wouldn't have the stigma about it that it's a terrible console. But we can't change the past, and the CD-i is still a terrible console, even with an actual good game under its belt. Originally, I was going to put The Apprentice at the #1 spot. I thought to myself that there wasn't a game that could top The Apprentice's looks, sounds, and graphics. But I was wrong. There is another. And that game is Tetris. Now you're probably thinking, how could a port of Tetris beat out an original and exclusive game on the CD-i that plays, sounds, and looks good? Well, allow me to elaborate. First of all, despite the name just being Tetris, this game is a new entry in the Tetris franchise that is, again, to my greater knowledge, only available on the CD-i. And second, it looks, plays, and sounds better than any other CD-i game on this list. There are a few minimal problems with it, like the fact that you can only rotate pieces one way, and that you cannot automatically drop pieces, but after playing for like 3 minutes you forget all about that. Why? Besides the fact that it's really hard to screw up a Tetris game, it's because of the atmosphere. In an honestly genius move, the Tetris board takes up less than half of the entire screen, while the rest of the screen is taken up by different scenes of nature, depending on the level you're playing. It fits the game perfectly, as Tetris has always been seen as a relaxing and calm game in my eyes. And the soundtrack, holy crap people, the soundtrack. Forget your white noise machines and yoga music, just play the soundtrack for Tetris on the CD-i, and watch your problems and nerves just melt away. This is, without a doubt, probably in the top 5 Tetris games of all time, with maybe like Tetris DS, Tetris Effect, Tetris 99, you know, those few games also being scrambled somewhere in there. And arguably the best CD-i game available. Admittedly, it's kind of sad if Tetris is the best game on any console, but hey, at least the CD-i is getting praised for something, right? It's still a stupid console, though. Hey, it's that time in the video again when we count down our top Patreon supporters here at FlatZone. So a special thanks to Percy Simmons, Homer Manfan, Stealth Zombie Snake, Adam, and Carnivalia's Ringmaster for their generous donations. Calm down. No.